Remember how in my rarest LEGO Island video I made a kind of running joke out of how much other stuff I bought, including 3 whole other game consoles? Well, guess what? I missed one. While traversing through all those junk bins in the Japanese game stores, I ended up finding yet another thing that very much piqued my interest. It was a Nintendo Wii labeled junk that cost only 100 yen. How much is that? Well, factoring in another 10 yen for tax, 110 yen is effectively $1 US. Yeah, a whole Wii for $1. It's like a no-lose situation. Even if I can't get it to work, I could still sell it for parts for more than $1. Obviously, I couldn't test while I was traveling around, I forgot to bring my TV with me. But now that I'm not traveling, let's see just how junk a junk Wii is. Interestingly, it was beautifully wrapped and packaged. Not so much now, since I opened it before to look at it, but for something at the bottom of a junk bin, it was just as carefully prepared as any of the displayed stock. Those Japanese sure are diligent. It's definitely used, there are some scuffs and scratches, but nothing super major in my opinion. In fact, I'd guess probably a good majority of Wiis look like this nowadays. But more importantly, does it work? For $1, it probably shouldn't. Plugging it all in, and well, we're definitely getting power. Let's turn it on. Oh, holy shit. So it actually powers up. Right off the bat, that's a lot more than I expected. Alright, nice. It actually looks pretty good, or better than I expected at least. The picture is a little soft and maybe a little dark, but no more than I'd necessarily expect for a composite image, and certainly not enough to consider it junk. I thought it'd be a good idea to test the optical drive. As the primary moving component, that's definitely at the greatest risk of failure, and without a soft mod, a broken optical drive could indeed be a deal breaker, explaining the low price. Unfortunately, I quickly realized I couldn't really test that at the moment. One of the few things I didn't buy in Japan was any actual Japanese Wii games. All I have are PAL region games from Australia, and they obviously don't load due to region locking. I decided it was time to install a soft mod. Theoretically, that should allow it to read discs of any region, and if the drive turns out to be broken, will allow booting games from USB and SD cards, so it's not just a paperweight. Now, as you can see, this Wii has been used, and I wanted a fresh start, so I reset it to factory defaults. But not before making a backup, because you never know if there was something rare on there. Next, I reset it and soft-modded with Letterbomb. I installed Preloader and enabled the region-free patch, and tried to boot a PAL game. Unfortunately, all of that didn't make any difference. The disc spun for a while, but then refused to boot. As a matter of fact, none of my PAL discs worked, so assuming the region-free patch is working, I guess the optical drive is dead. I experimented with a burned Japanese game, which was the closest I was going to get without paying for exorbitant shipping prices. Unfortunately, that still has no guarantee of working, since Wii's at a certain point introduced a restricted DVD drive called the D32, which won't accept burned DVDs of any kind. And indeed, that disc didn't load either. I was really starting to lean towards the drive being broken. It just seemed most likely since the system was so cheap. Little did I know, I would soon get my answer. At this point in time, I was really into playing Mario Kart Wii and Wii'nfi, which is the community's resurrection of the Wii's long-terminated online services. Back then, I was playing on the Dolphin emulator just for the convenience of playing it on a PC. But I was also interested in a popular mod of Mario Kart Wii called CTGPR. CTGPR specifically prevents you from playing on emulator primarily to deter cheating, so since I had this Wii set up, I thought, why not? Let's try it out on there. CTGPR also requires a real Mario Kart disc to be in the drive, and since it seemed like the drive didn't work, I had a feeling this wouldn't either. But it turns out I was wrong. Much to my surprise, it started to read the disc, loaded the game, and soon I was playing some custom community maps. Wow, so the drive does work, and the region-free patch just didn't? I mean, it wasn't what I expected, but I'll take it. Well, now I know there's nothing wrong with the drive, so I turned my attention to the only other issue I could see. The video was a little dark. To be honest, at first glance it was so subtle that I had to put a working Wii side by side just to be sure. Yeah, it is definitely darker, but check it out on my trusty Trinitron. Yeah, that's dark. And you're probably thinking, come on, it wasn't that bad. And you're right, sometimes it wasn't that bad, and sometimes it really was. I eventually realized if it had been powered off for a while, it would be super dark when powered on, but gradually brighten up the longer it was on. Check out this sped up recording. After 10 minutes, it's definitely improved. And after a while, it even looks, dare I say it, fine. But if I was a store worker and I saw this when I powered it on, yeah, I might call it junk and basically useless. In fact, it might have been even worse. I tried with some component cables just out of curiosity and got no picture whatsoever. So this might have looked completely dead depending on what cables were used to test it. Well, the good news is I think it's fixable. In fact, I have a pretty good idea what might be wrong. Can we turn a junk Wii with a dodgy video output into a Wii that functions perfectly? Let's get to disassembling so we can take a look at the main board. So, fun fact, this was the first time I'd ever disassembled a Wii, and it was actually a lot more complicated than I thought. Also, looks like I accidentally left Mario Kart Wii in there. Oh well, shouldn't be a big deal. With the help of an iFixit guide, I was soon down to the main board. Just gotta remove the heatsink and the Wi-Fi card, and the board should just lift out. So here's what I think is wrong. I think the gradual brightening is the key to this mystery because immediately it sounds like a faulty capacitor, since a capacitor's defining characteristic is charging up over time. You know, not this much time, but that would be why it's faulty. They're also absolutely notorious for failure, lest we forget the OG Xbox and its system-destroying capacitor. At first glance it all looked okay, but the Wii uses a lot of surface mount components, so it's unlikely to be as obvious as some great hulking bulgy boy, you know? Luckily, the Wii was an extremely popular system that's been extensively documented by the community, and thanks to Shank's Wii Superthread, I was soon able to determine this chip here on the underside, marked AVE-RVL, was the video encoder chip responsible for producing the AV output. The chip itself is proprietary, but has nonetheless been pretty well documented. You can also buy replacements if somehow this chip was causing a problem. I don't think it is here, but knowing its purpose makes it a solid place to start looking for whatever is.